Welcome back to my channel. My name is Ripastraya and today we'll be exploring the oldest view videos on the channel Kane Pixels. If you don't know who Kane Pixels is, I recommend checking out the channel, link in the description. Now what should we expect from the oldest view videos? A man who found himself entering down a strange staircase that leads to an underground location that has an unexpected entity lurking around. Is this entity evil or just misunderstood? Let's find out. Again, the links are in the description, so I highly recommend checking out the videos first, and when you're ready, come back here. But if you already watched them, then sit back, relax, maybe enjoy a snack, and let's begin with the analysis. Starting with the first video, Renewal. It begins with a view of a flower and a man staring at it. Noticeably, the man is completely in black and white, unlike most of his surroundings, and after picking the flower, we hear thunder before he walks off. He eventually found himself sitting on a log and pulled out a journal. The camera then moves away and everything becomes dark. After this, we see someone building and planning something with cardboard, and in the end we see what the person was making. A face or a mask? This short video is more like an opening of what's to come. So now we're going to be moving on to the next video, Beneath the Earth. It opens with a shot of the sky that is slightly covered by the trees, and suddenly the video loads before changing to a scene on the road. We then get introduced to someone named Wyatt who is filming themselves, almost like a vlog. He wishes the audience is having a good day because he's having a great day and wants to show us something. He won't tell us the name of the park that he's going to because technically it's private property and trespassing isn't a good thing, but he says in a joking way that it's fine if you find a mysterious tunnel in the forest and you plan on documenting it. Hint hint of what's to come. Wyatt walks down a dirt path for a while before eventually arriving at a large tree with a strange hole at the bottom. At first Wyatt assumed it was a cave, but after peeking inside he realized that there was stairs leading downwards. Wyatt enters the hole and points out that it appears that the staircase probably once led further up. And because the lights are still on, that could mean whatever operation or thing going on in the area is still operating. Regardless of this, the entrance to the staircase seems strange to Wyatt, but he decides to proceed moving forward and walk down the steps. While walking down the steps, Wyatt is trying to keep quiet to avoid any unwanted attention just in case there are people down there. He doubted it, but then again, the lights are on. Better to be safe than sorry. Wyatt then tells us that he walked down the steps in a previous day, and the furthest he went was at this point in the video. The reason why he didn't went any further was because he didn't have much space in his phone, but this time around he did, so he continued to proceed down. He made it to what appeared to be the end, but it turns out it was just a turn that leads down to more stairs. This place seems to go quite deep into the earth. Wyatt tossed down a rock and it went down for a while. The sound of it hitting each step echoed back until eventually becoming quiet, because it either was out of earshot or it hit the end. Whatever the case is, this didn't stop Wyatt from proceeding. The strange thing about this staircase was that unlike the other one where the walls were flat, it had indents on the walls shaped as rectangles. Rightfully, Wyatt feels anxious about this and has a sneaking suspicion that maybe one of the indents will actually be opened and reveal a hallway. But that was just an initial guess. As he continued moving, he pointed out that it's been raining for a while the past few days, and yet the staircase is completely dry. Sure, the staircase goes down pretty deep, but the water would have still been able to roll down, yet it's dry and noticeably cold. If it wasn't obvious, Wyatt is very nervous, so he's talking to fill the uncomfortable silence, but after drawing closer to the darker part of the staircase, that's when he stopped talking for a few seconds. Wyatt considered turning back, but that would mean he has to walk up a ton of stairs, so he said fuck it and he proceeded forward despite how dumb it might seem. Unexpectedly, Wyatt smelled something similar to cut grass, and at the end of the staircase was a door. It was rusted and clearly old, and after opening it, it revealed a small stained room, with drains or vents on the floor and another door at the opposite side. The door had bars, but there was a gap at the bottom allowing Wyatt to pass through into the next room. Music could be heard, and this room was noticeably different from the other. The floor is carpeted, the walls weren't as stained, there are desks, and overall it seems much more cleaner than the other room. Wyatt immediately suspected that he shouldn't be there and approached the gates at the end of the room. These gates noticeably look like ones you would find in a mall when the shops are closing down. Wyatt then proceeded to look past the gates, and he quickly realized that he indeed did found himself in a similar location to a shopping mall. He questioned if he should even post this on YouTube, and the video ends with his nervous laughter. This is immediately giving the vibes of a liminal space or backrooms, a place that feels oddly unnatural but similar to reality. Shopping malls aren't strange by any means, but shopping malls found deep within the earth that can only be accessed by a large staircase is very much unusual. Actually, there's probably more entrances, but the staircase is the only one known at the moment. And because the video ended there, we need to move on to the next video so we can get more information on this mall and what potentially could be found inside of it. What's the next video? The Rolling Giant. Ooh, spooky! The video opens with a view of the sky and trees before the video loads and changes to footage of outside and Wyatt's voiceover. It begins with an update. He hasn't returned to that place for the past few days, but has visited the hole on the surface. With the recommendations from the comments, he set up 2 trail cameras, one outside pointing towards the hole and one inside the hole. Wyatt is well aware that this is strange because he's putting cameras on private property, but he's not going to walk away from this. He said he needs answers and he's going to get them. Sadly, the cameras didn't catch anything, but because the area seemed devoid of life, this convinced him to return, so he did. He started recording at the surface and showed us where he placed the cameras, before proceeding inside. He also pointed out that one of the lights went out on the staircase, but he wasn't sure why. While walking down the steps, he talked about his hesitation to share too many details about the location because he doesn't know who he will attract or what he would be getting himself into. Not wanting to get into any unnecessary problems because it's clear that this is bigger than most things, he decided that it was probably for the best to keep some of the details private. He tried thinking of theories about this place and first assumed maybe this place was made by a mining company, but later realized that it was likely owned by a family who also owned the land. But the family are just locals and no one notable. As for the surroundings of the hole, Wyatt tried searching for any activity around it, such as tire marks, footprints, equipment, or anything else, but he found nothing. So whatever the staircase is, he assumed it was a back entrance. He eventually arrived at the door and brought up again the fresh cut grass smell, or something similar to a cornfield. Since this was brought up a second time, this must be something important, so I tried looking it up. First, I found that this smell was a warning signal for plants under attack. I doubt that was it, so I looked more into it. This is when I found phosgene gas. This gas is highly toxic, and its odor is oddly reminiscent to the smell of fresh cut grass. And looking at the room with the walls that are stained and vents on the floor, if I had to guess, this is probably where the gas smell is coming from. Why was there a room where gas likely filled it? I don't have an answer yet, so let's proceed. Surprisingly, the music wasn't playing, and when he arrived at the gates to open it, it was unbelievably loud, so he had to retreat back to the stairs. After waiting a moment and catching his breath, Wyatt returned to the now open gates and checked if the coast was clear. He stepped out and spotted a sign and a poster for the Midtown Art Walk. He continued to spot more posters before eventually filming the downstairs area from the railing and compared the environment to the back rooms. He then found a sign that welcomed shoppers, and we learned that this place is Valley View Center at Dallas Midtown. This was an actual place, by the way. The actual mall is gone now, and if you haven't guessed, it wasn't deep within the ground. So wherever Wyatt is at, it's replicating the mall, but it's not the real one, I think. Regardless, it's ominous. Why this mall, or why a mall in general? Wyatt continued walking, wishing he brought a better flashlight, and made his way to the guest service desk. In addition to that, there were shops obviously found around the location, and Wyatt debated how further he should walk into the mall. But eventually, he made his way to where the art gallery would be set up. He then spotted a sign showing a puppet giant. Clearly important, remember this? Wyatt then pointed out how cold it was at the food court, but suddenly felt a lot less so as he kept moving. He spotted a lot of art studios and was spooked for a moment when he stumbled across the giant. He slowly approached it but kept a distance and was suddenly spooked when he heard noises behind him, and it turns out the music was playing. He freaked out a bit before eventually moving forward towards the area in the mall that seems to be lit up now. This obviously confused Wyatt and also unsettled him. Why was the music suddenly playing when it was off before? Why did the lights suddenly turn on? Could someone be in the mall with him? If that's the case, he needs to leave. He rushes towards the staircase that he entered from, but unexpectedly, all that was left was rubble. He was trapped. He tried removing the rubble, but obviously was unsuccessful. It's like the staircase was caved in. Left with no other choice, Wyatt eventually had to walk back into the mall. He was more cautious this time and checked behind his shoulder a few times as he followed the exit signs. He was hoping to find another staircase, I'm assuming, and when he did find the exit, it wasn't what he expected. This exit will only make sense if the mall was actually on the surface, but because he was underground, all he could see past the windows was rock. This isn't an exit he can actually take, so he had to check elsewhere. He returned to the spot where he first saw the giant, but unexpectedly it was gone. Wyatt, however, brushed the thought away and kept moving. The lights started to flicker or turn off, and as he looked across where he was standing, he saw the giant. Wyatt didn't seem too frightened, but was more confused than anything. He went to check on the statue, but as soon as he made it to the other side, it was gone again. Clearly there's something wrong, but Wyatt is prioritizing looking for an exit, so he went to find a map, in hopes that it would help him. He kept walking, his footage glitching at some moments, and after finding a playground, he then discovered a shop with a gate. Unexpectedly, on the other side of the gate, it almost looked like the outside. He then suddenly heard screeching coming from behind him, and he went to check it out, but he didn't spot anything initially. He walked away from the gates to check if the coast was clear, but when he turned back around, the giant was there. I'm gonna be honest, I jumped out of my seat when this happened. I didn't expect it, okay? Anyways, Wyatt called out to it, trying to see if maybe it would talk back, but after a few seconds of silence, he slowly walked backwards to get away from it. He turned away from it briefly, but when he turned back, it moved closer to him. Oh shoot, we got a case of weeping angels. But instead, it's a giant puppet. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the giant is probably only moving when they're not being looked at. So if Wyatt were to look away, the giant would move closer. And if the giant catches Wyatt, I would only hate to imagine what would happen. Anyways, Wyatt tells the giant that he's leaving, or he's trying to, and he walks backwards. However, he got distracted by a noise behind him. Because he took his eyes off of the giant temporarily, it allowed it to move closer. Now, what I mentioned about the giant being similar to a weeping angel, throw that out of the window. The giant is now moving regardless if Wyatt is looking at it or not. Hey, that's cheating. Not really. The giant is now charging or wheeling towards Wyatt. However, once Wyatt ran up the escalators, the giant stopped and turned around. I'm guessing its wheels don't allow it to go up those stairs. The lights then flickered above him, and Wyatt realized that he needs to be on the same floor as the giant if he wants any hope to finding an escape. He obviously was chased by the giant, and he was cornered briefly until he broke past some barricades, which he managed to knock down, and found himself in a place that I believe is only meant for employees. Not wanting to get caught by the giant, he hid inside a room, hoping the giant would just pass him. The video then cuts to him inside a shop with the gates down. After checking his surroundings, he slowly opened and closed the gates to avoid making any noise, and after he exited the shop, he rushed across to the next area. I can only describe this area similar to an office or a place for staff members. He found papers and maps, a document too which seemed to center around safety. The noticeable thing about this document was the text at the bottom. In the event that primary exit routes become inaccessible, please refer to document 18371905. And with the help of a map that has the same numbers he found in the document, it pointed him towards a potential exit. Here's the strange thing. Once he entered back into the mall area to find the exit, the environment looked completely different. It almost looked like nature was taking over. The speakers were still working, but the lights dimmed and there was plant life everywhere. Wyatt cautiously walked forward, having his sights towards where the exit should be. However, before he could make it to the escalator, the giant appeared. He had to run to the other escalator and managed to make it there in time and found a sign pointing him towards an emergency exit. He ran to the next sign. However, getting to that exit seems to be dangerous, and the giant somehow managed to get to his level by using the escalator. Once it was on the same floor, a piece of the wall fell behind it. I think the giant planned this. It wanted Wyatt to go to a specific escalator, and it must have blocked the actual exit with a fake wall so Wyatt would walk away from the actual exit and be cornered. This giant is smart. Apex predator, honestly. The lights flickered and briefly we saw dead animals on the floor. This probably wasn't the first time the giant cornered a living creature. Anyways, the giant wheeled towards Wyatt, but he ran onto the supports of the roof. Despite how dangerous it might seem, he's going to continue following the emergency exit signs, because apparently there should be one on the roof. Keeping his balance, Wyatt walked away where the giant was, and found an opening with a staircase. He's there! He made it! He's free! Oh, a piece of the roof that he was standing on broke and he fell down. So close. The footage turned black before showing us the view from the beginning, which was of the sky and the tree leaves. But here's the kicker, we then see a body of a man with his phone nearby. He was completely in black and white, and I could be wrong, but it almost looked like the light in his eyes or whatever was left turned dark. We then see a shot of the forest, and I could almost swear that I see the giant in the background. And that's where the video ends. The next video, Life of a Giant, is footage or photographs of the actual statue in the mall before it was abandoned and torn down. Many people seem to love the giant, and there was many photos taken with it. We then see a photo of Julian Revachon before it ended. I'm gonna be honest, this video made me see the giant in a whole new light. At first I thought it was an intimidating monster that was out for blood, but now I'm a little conflicted, especially after reading the comments. Some people believe that the giant and the mall in general is angry about being abandoned, and when Wyatt appeared it helped fill the loneliness and calm down its anger. But when Wyatt told the giant he wanted to leave, this probably angered it or made it panic. Out of desperation, maybe the giant tried making Wyatt stay, keeping him away from exits and ensuring he wouldn't leave. Sadly, this ended with Wyatt falling to his doom. As to who Julian Revachon is, a French botanist and actually what inspired the creation of the giant. The giant was a real thing, by the way. But returning back to the previous video, some people believe that the giant could potentially be the ghost of Julian. But who knows? Now, was the giant out to harm Wyatt, or did it just not want to be alone? Is the giant evil or just misunderstood? Did the giant intend to kill Wyatt, or was it an accident? Maybe all those animals we saw on the floor were also accidents, who knows? Maybe the giant doesn't understand its own strength. And genuinely, for those people who didn't watch the Life of a Giant video, they probably assumed the giant was a monster. But if they do watch the video, that's when they probably would think differently. If the giant wasn't actually bad, this makes the situation feel like a depressing misunderstanding. It's pretty heartbreaking if it turns out the giant and the mall were just lonely and missed all its visitors that it once had back in the past before eventually getting torn down and abandoned. With the art walk, many people entered the mall, had lots of fun, and smiled with one another. The mall was once full of life and laughter, but now it's quiet. No visitors, just silent loneliness. And the small glimpse of hope with Wyatt was crushed when he tried escaping and ended up falling to his doom. The mall tried keeping him there, but both of their desperations led to a sad outcome. And going back to the first video, remember the man we saw in black and white who was studying a flower? Could this be Julian Revachon? Maybe. And who knows, maybe I'm looking way too into it. Maybe the giant isn't lonely and just wants to kill, I don't know. You tell me. Either way, I'm still gonna be feeling something. Either it'd be fear or sadness. But we made it to the end of my video. These videos were honestly freaking rad, so if you haven't watched them, please do. Like, I don't care if I already spoiled it all for you. Watch it, like, come on. The link to Kane Pixel's channel and video is in the description. Check it out! Woo! And again, my name is Grotesque Fantasia. I hope you have a good day. I better not catch you dying on me. And goodbye. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment too. Please. Free.